The author of Ecclesiastes, some say it was King Solomon, I'm not sure, wants us to know that at one point he had everything. Fame, power, sex, he says that. Whoever he was, he tells us that he was king. And it's not as if it all came crashing down. He just came to see that all that stuff wasn't really what he was looking for. I like Bishop Eugene Peterson's translation of the king's words and the message. There's nothing new on this earth. Year after year, it's the same old thing. Does someone call out, "Hey, this is new"? Don't get excited. It's the same old story. Nobody remembers what happened yesterday. And the things that will happen tomorrow, nobody will remember them either. Don't count on being remembered. Gloomy, yes. But the author doesn't seem to see it as necessarily all that bad. In the 3rd chapter of his book, he describes life as participation in a great rhythm that precedes and outlives each and all of us. His writing made its way into American popular culture. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. The great king yields to this cycle of the universe. Science has taught us even more about this cycle. There are rhythms which guide the days of animals, insects, and mammals. Research has been done to indicate that most are guided by a 24-hour cycle or something close to that. That even when they're deprived of regular changes in light and dark, something in the bodies of most creatures works to maintain that cycle. In 1999, a Harvard study suggested that humans are not exempt from this circadian rhythm. For all earthly life, there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to work and a time to rest. And so, Sabbath rest, when we're living in harmony with the world's deep guiding rhythms, is built into life. Wayne Mueller, in his excellent little book, Sabbath, Finding Rest, Renewal, and Delight in Our Busy Lives, defines Sabbath as effortless, nourishing rest, a way of being in time where we can remember who we are, remember what we know, and taste the gifts of spirit and eternity. Reverend Amanda Aikman added, Sabbath offers the priceless gift of balance. We are valued not for what we have done, but simply because we are. During Sabbath time, we reconnect with what is truly valuable, the beauty of the world, the love of God, the miracle of being itself. Sabbath, she says, is waiting quietly for us, a haven of calm, a nest of gentleness, a sweet apple on the tree of peace. When I was a child, my grandpa used to take a few days off work every summer to take my brothers and me swimming at the creek near his house. Those days at the creek for me were time removed from time, something greater than ordinary hours. 30 years later, I can feel the smooth stones under my feet. I remember the joy and a little bit of fear of my grandpa swimming under the water and grabbing at our ankles as we tried to run away. I can feel my disappointment when he said, "Okay, boys, it's time to get out." He is a hero to me, a hard-working tool and die maker who carved out whole days to spend with his grandchildren. No other agenda. He seems to know the value of Sabbath time. But for most of us, and for him, Sabbath time takes some work. I don't need to tell you that most of us live quite hectic lives. You feel it, same as I do. What can get lost, what can become the water we swim in, is the way we've built our lives around our go, go, go culture. At about the same time as the rise of the automobile came the rise of the fast food restaurant. In its heyday, a symbol of the modern day on-the-go, earning, building the gross domestic product kind of life. McDonald's advertised the Big Mac early on. A meal, they said it was a meal disguised as a sandwich. Something that could be held in your hand and eaten so as not to slow down your busy life. Don't cook. Who has time for that? Head out to White Castle or KFC. In the 1960s, children's meals were added, and so these became family destinations, these fast food restaurants. Drive-through windows became popular, so we didn't even have to leave our cars. There must be a God somewhere, as the song says. Now, I'm not knocking the food. I'm not praising it either. It is what it is. I've been known to partake, and I see you sometimes too. But the lifestyle promoted by fast food is one in which we're told we don't even have time to enjoy preparing our own food. Fast food will enable us to eat quickly so that we can get back to work or soccer practice or consumption, whatever it is that is keeping our lives so busy. We work so hard. We work longer hours than we ever have on average, longer hours than citizens in any other Western nation. And recently, a presidential candidate said the answer to our current woes is for us to work more hours. What, friends, in this culture, what is a successful life? To quote Mueller, a successful life has become a violent enterprise. We make war on our own bodies, pushing them beyond the limits. War on our children because we cannot find enough time to be with them when they're hurt and afraid and need our company. War on our spirits because we are too preoccupied to listen to the quiet voices that seek to nourish and refresh us. War on our communities because we are fearfully protecting what we have and do not feel safe enough to be kind and generous. War on the earth because we cannot take the time to place our feet on the ground and allow it to feed us, to taste its blessings and give thanks. To be unavailable to our friends and family, to be unable to find the time for the sunset, or even to know that the sun has set at all. To whiz through obligations without time for a single mindful breath. Mueller concludes this has become the model of a successful life. Do you recognize that? I would add that it's also the model of good citizenry. Do you remember being reminded after 9/11 that the best thing we could do was go shopping? We assume the possibility of continual upward growth of the gross domestic product, which depends, of course, on our being consumers. And so we buy more than we ever have. We have more stuff, bigger homes, and that requires us to work even more. To be a part of this system, we are asked to be continually unsatisfied. A Macy's perfume ad sums it up. A Macy's perfume ad. You want it. You want it bad. Sometimes so much it hurts. You can taste it. You feel like you would do anything to get it. Go further than they'd suspect. Twist your soul and crush what's in your way. Then you get it and something happens. You become the object of your desire. And it feels incredible. But do we ever really get it? Whatever the it is, perfume, I guess, in this case. I'm concerned that this infernal busyness even infects our faith homes. We work and we fuss and we do this and then we redo it. We do good things too. We march and we speak out and we fight for justice. If we're not careful, though, We can become doers of good things who do not know ourselves or why we do what we do. Religious life is not supposed to be about an endless list of activities, because frantic activity in our religious homes serves the same purpose as frantic busyness in our day-to-day lives. It keeps us from paying attention to the most important questions, like who am I? Whose am I? Why am I here? What is most important to me? As author, mystic, and Catholic priest Thomas Merton said, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. I love that sentence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our own inner capacity for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of inner wisdom which makes our work fruitful. The voice of God, or if you prefer, the voice of our deepest selves, is a still, small voice. Parker Palmer talks about the soul being like an animal that is hiding and sometimes has to be invited out. What chance does that voice have in all our frantic activity? Our values can become so easily muddied, confused, and as Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao, who is it that can make muddy water clear? But if allowed to remain still, it will gradually become clear itself. In his book, Mueller tells the story of Sister Gilchrist, a Cistercian nun at the Abbey of Mississippi. She and the other nuns manage a piece of land on which they keep a herd of cattle. She wanders those fields every day, Sister Gilchrist, and sometimes brings back fresh herbs for dinner, but enjoys wandering and meditating in those hills. The sisters wanted to understand permaculture. They wanted to know how best to use their land, so they hired a consultant who said the best thing they could do with their land was to change the cows' grazing habits. They had been allowing the cattle to just sort of roam over the entire field. Now the consultant told them they should pen up the cattle in one area of the field for a while, then move the pen and put the cattle in another area. After 2 years, what Sister Gilchrist found was amazing. New grasses were springing up, so nutritious they were able to stop supplementing the cow's diet with corn. Mueller writes, where had these new herbs and grasses come from? They appeared from within the earth of this field, seeds that had always been embedded in the soil. Because they had always been trodden underfoot by the relentless activity of the cows, they were never able to grow into their fullness. When the land and the seeds were given a necessary Sabbath, the earth could then in its own time reveal the breathtaking wonders of which it was naturally and easily capable. Who is it that can make muddy water clear? But if allowed to remain still, it will gradually become clear itself. To everything its season, a time to work and a time to rest. You and I are not unlike that field. You hold the seeds of things you may not have experienced in a long time. Wonder, joy, a deep connection to what's holy. These can grow, but they often require the fertile soil of Sabbath rest. Maybe you're thinking, yeah, right, no time, pal, and you haven't met my boss. Well, can you start small? This is one thing I'm going to try. I've shut off email on my cell phone. Now that I've said it to you, I'm accountable. I was allowing it to rob too much of my time with my children, who I'm noticing are getting older and smarter and more fun, whether or not I'm paying attention. And frankly, it was making me sick to my stomach, anxious to be available so often. So instead of rolling over in the morning and checking my email first thing like an addict, I'm practicing lying in bed for a moment and being grateful. That's a little Sabbath in every day, no matter what happens after. It's not much, but it's better. I don't have time to join an ashram. I don't have time to watch my life go by either, though, while I slowly lose touch with the holy. I don't know what it'll look like for you, but I think Sabbath is worth the effort, whatever it is. Seems to me we all need a place in which we can remember who we are. Remember that our work is not who we are. A place in which we get in touch with our deepest values, our greatest loves, and are renewed. In which, as Parker Palmer said recently, we value being more than being useful. I want to close with the poem Camas Lilies by Lynn Unger. I invite you to do whatever you do when you're thinking about a piece of poetry, whether you like to close your eyes or just make them glassy, or stare at this beautiful piece of art. She writes, "Consider the lilies of the field, the blue banks of Camas opening into acres of sky along the road. Would the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty abate if you knew their usefulness? How the native ground their bulbs for flower, how settlers' hogs uprooted them, grunting in gleeful oblivion as the flowers fell. And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down. Papers, plans, appointments, everything. Leaving only a note. Gone to the fields to be lovely. Be back when I'm through blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass from their tender blue eyes. Even in sleep, your life will shine. Make no mistakes. Of course your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." Amen.